64 gig retro gaming goodness.
Introducing Generation 6, a series dedicated to exploring the Dreamcast, GameCube, PlayStation 2 and original Xbox, and looking at titles from the 6th generation of console gaming, circa 1998 to 2005. And now over to your host, Bastich B, as he introduces today's games.
And welcome to the first episode of Generation 6. Today we're going to have a look at two PlayStation 2 games, namely Rise to Honor by Sony and Urban Reign by Namco. Rise to Honor was released by Sony in 2004 on the PS2. The game was a third-person beat-em-up featuring martial arts legend himself, Jet Li. The game's timing could not have been any better for Li's popularity to Western audiences, who'd been introduced to his fast-paced wushu style in rapid succession in Lethal Weapon 4, Romeo Must Die, Kiss of the Dragon, and The One by the time this game was released. To real martial arts fans though, these movies were diluted products compared to his real Chinese movie output, and being a massive fan of the genre in the 80s and 90s, checking out Once Upon a Time in China 1, 2 and 3, Fist of Legend, or any of the Fong Sai-yuk movies really show Jet in his real element. And a lot of the action, style, movies and even set pieces pay ode to these throughout the game. In Rise to Honor you play Kit, who is an undercover Hong Kong cop who infiltrates a high-profile gang. The boss eventually wants to leave the criminal life behind him, and the association decides to take him out before he exposes them. The boss gives Kit a letter exposing the entire syndicate and asks him to deliver it to his daughter in San Francisco before he dies. Rise is a pretty unique beat-em-up for the time. Despite the unorthodox control scheme, at least for the time, using an analog stick to punch and kick in various directions, it also employed gunplay for certain sequences, very much in the vein of Max Payne, giving you the combo of the best of Jet's Chinese and American movies all mashed together. The icing on the cake though is Jet's participation, which came down to complete motion capture of all his classic moves you would have seen in his movies.
We don't have a game. It's like it can capture, human how to fight. But I still dream one day, when I become old, I cannot do exactly the movement, but I can capture my library. Let the computer remember. So when you're old, 60 years old, I can put my face on my movement. I still can fight. That's my dream.
And these sequences were all overseen by frequent Lee collaborator, director and martial arts choreographer Corey Yun.
攝鏡就我覺得幾 exciting 嘅就話因為我打好多鏡嗰啲動作就嘣嘣嘣就係咁樣嘅啫。咁呢次咧佢就揾咗好多真人拍。咁唯一個好處就係話好多係 Jet 呢個動態嘢咧，咁佢就可以表演出到嚟嗰個感覺。咁都有幾開心嘅嘢就係話，因為我好睇電影嘅時候，我想將啲動作去拍出嚟，因為我哋拍唔到，因為你要每一個鏡頭喺呢度之後咧就我將電影嘅動作做唔到，可能喺而家呢個 game 咧我會做到，即係幾開心就係可以將我以前夢想嘅做唔到，而家可能會做得到咁樣。
Responsible for directing Dragons Forever with Yung Baeo, Sammo Hung and Jackie Chan, which is an absolute classic. As well as Jet Li flicks like Fong Sai-yuk 1 and 2 and The Bodyguard from Beijing. The game employs tons of group fights with you having to take on multiple opponents at a time, comboing it up to build up your adrenaline meter to the max, and being able to unleash some of Jet's special moves. This gameplay trope also works in the gunplay sequences as well, maxing it out puts you into a bullet time mode where you can mow down plenty of dudes in rapid succession. The environment also plays a role in the action, with furniture and walls all being used to pull off special moves or do some extra smashing of a nearby opponent. It's all very satisfying to pull off. There are many references to Jet movies, including a gas mask sequence which plays ode to the end fight in Bodyguard from Beijing, unlockable skins of Wong Fei-hung from Once Upon a Time in China and Chen Zhen from Fist of Legend, and so much more. It's a real feast for Hong Kong movie action junkies. Graphically, it sports excellent animation, but the environments are generally dull and boring, and most take place at night. It's actually very much a generic action movie of the time. But lucky enough, the gameplay is really fun, and getting your flow on, taking out multiple opponents, and getting to blast scum in slow-mo is something out of the best of John Woo movies, and is extremely satisfying. The multiple styles of action included, the run for your life sequences as well, plus team-up sequences, keep things fresh. Like the environments, the music is pretty forgettable action movie stuff. I've never been a huge fan of movie-style soundtracks in games. I feel they're just two different mediums completely, and it usually results in a forgettable soundtrack just like this one. Rise to Honor is a game I feel that's been almost completely forgotten. The PS2 has a lot of good action beat-em-ups, and this is right up there with some of the best. What it lacks in environment and score, it more than makes up for in gameplay and fun, and is also a pretty cheap game to pick up even now. To relive, at least in game form, when action movies were still fun and entertaining, before they all became so painfully dull and realistic. Being the second of the 6th generation releases, the PS2 made its debut in 2000 and went on to outlast everything else of that generation, ending its official run in 2013 when it was finally discontinued a full 13 years later. It ended up selling just over 150 million units, making it the most successful console of all time, helped largely by its backwards compatibility with the PS1 library and the inclusion of a DVD drive for games, but more importantly for movies, which was a pivotal time when most people were switching from VHS to the newer format, and the combination of DVD and gaming system together helped Sony wipe the floor with its competition, and is still to this day the most successful game console ever.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Are you?
Yeah.
You like video games? No.
Urban Reign was released by Namco in 2005. Namco themselves were on a roll during this generation with massive franchises like Ace Combat, Tekken, and Soul Calibur series dominating their respective genres on both the PS2 and the original Xbox. Yet Urban Reign kinda got lost in the shuffle. It was a much later release, but was probably overlooked with the launch of the Xbox 360 at about the same time it was released. But it's definitely a game worth seeking out. Essentially, it's a mission-based action-adventure beat-em-up with light RPG elements. You can think of it like a 3D version of River City Ransom in some respects. In the game, you play Brad Hawk, a thug for hire, who's put into active duty in the trash heap town of Green Harbor, where you have to track down a kidnapped gang member. Green Harbor is a local video game dumpster fire of a place full of multiple gangs that need to be taken out to complete your goal. This game is big, with a massive 100 single-player missions, which vary in style from taking out everyone in a location to time-based one-on-one missions, and a whole lot more. It's a challenge, and it's going to test even the most beat-em-up hardened person to see it all the way to the end. The first few missions are pretty linear until the map of the city opens up, giving you the choice of which missions to take on first. After each slapdown, you get points to upgrade your character, both in offensive and defensive elements. It's up to you how you want to approach the action. The fighting is an intense arena-based affair, where you are generally taking out a group of thugs in various sleazy locations. You have a multitude of moves, lots of them being chain-type combos, very similar to the way Tekken is played, as well as dodge, grapple, special moves, and partner team-up moves. The further you get in the game opens up AR partners, joining the cause and helping you out during the battles, and that's where the aforementioned team moves come into play. The environments also have destructive elements. You can use walls to jump off for special moves, and there's weapons, 30 different types in total. Overall, it is chock full of things to open up, from the multiplayer versus game to the 2-player mode, and even characters from the Tekken series including Paul Phoenix and Martial Law, with 60 characters to unlock in total. Like I said, it's a big game packed with a lot of content. The game was directed by Masahide Kito, who'd worked on many Namco games up until that point, including the Xbox original gem Breakdown and Ace Combat 5. He really threw everything he could at this game. Graphically, the locations, like Rise to Honor, are drab action movie cliches with dark alleys and sleazy warehouses filling out the scenery. But the characters and animations are very good, with tons of specials and animations to see that all flow together really well once you get the gist of the gameplay. Music is pretty good as well. It's a mixture of hard rock with a bit of Japanese jazzy tunes that play throughout and has a good bit of personality, enhancing every single action and story sequence. Overall, Urban Reign is another PS2 forgotten beat 'em up. Its release timing probably didn't help it, but it is well worth tracking down, like Rise to Honor, and is another great beat 'em up in the PS2's vast library of games.